Hey guys, so today I decided to share with you my pregnancy story for Mckenzie. It was a crazy pregnancy, and after having a super smooth pregnancy with Jackson, I was like, I could do this 100 times. But then my pregnancy with Mckenzie came, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. So grab your cup of coffee and let's talk about my crazy pregnancy experience with Mckenzie. Okay, so to start off, I was 3 days late and I had asked my husband to bring home a pregnancy test. So he brings home the test and I go in the bathroom and I take the test, and what do you know, when the second line showed up, the first line started showing up. So I immediately knew this is a positive. So I go downstairs and I tell my husband, I'm like, okay, so I have something for you. And he's like, well, I guess that means we're gonna have a baby. So he was right. We're definitely having a baby. I started feeling really, really sick in the mornings, and I was like, it's a girl. I know it's a girl because this is already way too different, and I really honestly think it's a girl. So I started getting sick, and my sickness from my pregnancy carried all the way to the 6th month of my pregnancy. I was hospitalized for dehydration multiple times. I just hurt all over just from heaving so much, my back, my neck, my stomach. I was just overly exhausted for that whole 6-month period. And during that 6-month period, I had been new to Texas when I ended up getting pregnant, and we had no family around anywhere. So I didn't have any help with Jackson, and I didn't have any help like in general, just being so sick. And it was just exhausting all the time. Jackson was a great help. Even though he was 3, he would like come sit with me in the bathroom and bring his blanket and get me a water bottle out of the fridge and like bring the iPad in and like put Mickey Mouse Clubhouse on and cuddle up with me and tell me, it's okay, mommy. He would just baby me, and it was the best part of my pregnancy with Mckenzie. I started getting really, really depressed just being so alone and not having that help. And then plus being sick. And then I started thinking about, you know, I have to share my time with another baby. Like, it's not just going to be me and Jackson. And I didn't know how Jackson was going to feel. I didn't know if Jackson was going to feel left out. I didn't know how I was going to feel. It was just crazy. Like, it just felt like the wrong time. And I started getting really angry with my husband, and I started blaming him, telling him it was his fault. I felt like he was selfish, that because he wanted a little girl that I was having to take the brunt of all of this pregnancy like every woman does. And it was just hard. It was super hard. And it caused a lot of conflict between me and my husband. I started saying things that I now very, very regret. I started saying things like, I don't want her, I just don't want to be pregnant, basically not wanting my baby and not wanting to be pregnant. As I got further along in my pregnancy, I started to sink into just this hole of hating myself, hating my body, hating the way I felt, hating my husband. I just felt nasty and just dragged down into this darkness, and I just wanted to sleep all the time. I started talking to my doctor about it, and she said a lot of women feel depressed during pregnancy, that it's a hormonal reaction and that the hormones are like messing with my body. She asked me if I felt like I was going to harm myself or the baby, which I never did. I never thought of doing anything that would hurt Mckenzie, and the thought of it made me sad that I didn't love my pregnancy with her like I did Jackson. I kind of battled this problem internally. I never wanted to tell my husband how bad I was feeling, just because I didn't want him to think that I wasn't a good mom. And I didn't want him to think that I wasn't going to love Mckenzie, because I knew I was going to love her. I just didn't know how I was going to love her. So as my pregnancy goes on, I end up getting an ultrasound, and they tell me that I have placenta previa. For those of you that don't know what placenta previa is where the placenta is actually blocking the opening to the cervix, and it makes it so you cannot deliver your baby vaginally. Yet another thing that's gone wrong in the pregnancy. I'm now faced with having to possibly get a C-section if my placenta does not move. 2 weeks later, after they told me that I had placenta previa, I started breaking out in a rash all over my body, a hives rash. And it was on my face, on my body, on my legs, on my butt, my back, everywhere. I just had hives and I couldn't figure out why. Anytime I would lay on the heat pack when my back was hurting, anytime I took a shower, anytime I was out in the sun too long, it just seemed like heat brought the hives. And I brought it up to my OBGYN and they had said that it was something called PUPS. And I'm gonna butcher it if I say it. I know what it is, but I don't know how to say it, and I butcher it every single time. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that right here. And it can also be called PEP, which is polymorphic eruption of pregnancy. The way that my doctor basically described it to me is heat is gonna bring it, and anytime my body starts perspirating is when I'm gonna break out in hives. So I ended up with PUPS and placenta previa, and I was like, what else could go wrong? I have learned to never ask that question again. So after I had both of those diagnoses, before my mother-in-law came out, 2 days before her flight got in, I went to my 36-week appointment and they checked to see if it was blocking. They couldn't find it. They were like, your placenta is nowhere near the opening, like 5 centimeters away from the opening. You are cleared to have a safe vaginal delivery as long as everything else goes to plan. And I'm sitting here thinking like, well, what the heck am I gonna do now? I'm only 36 weeks along. Like, my mother-in-law is coming in 2 days for this planned C-section. What the heck am I gonna do now? So my mother-in-law decided that she was actually going to extend her flight if she needed to. I started preterm labor at 37 weeks. So I was contracting off and on, like 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then they would disappear for hours and they would come back super strong. I had went to my doctor's office on an emergency visit, and just to see if that was Braxton Hicks or if it was actual contractions. She said, no, these are real contractions. You're about 2 centimeters dilated and you're effacing. And she said that I was in labor, but I wasn't far enough along to where they would keep me. So I needed to go home until my contractions got closer together. Well, that was 37 weeks, and over 2 weeks of time, they never got closer. So I was just a little over 38 weeks, and I woke up at like 11 o'clock at night and I was contracting, and I was like, here we go again. It's going to be another long night. They started getting closer and closer and closer and closer. Well, I ended up squatting on the side of the bed and like putting my hands like this on the bed. And that was the only place that I could get comfortable to take the pressure off of what was going on in that area. So I ended up falling asleep, woke up, and my feet were huge, swollen, because I was like cutting off the circulation to my feet. So I ended up crawling into bed and laying there for a little bit. My husband got up for work and he's asking me, are you okay? Do you need anything? And I just wanted to sleep and couldn't. He left for work and I went downstairs and I legitimately laid on my driveway in the sun. Like, I just laid on my back with my arm up over my face and I just laid there. And I was itchy and I felt like crap, but I just needed heat. So I was laying on the driveway and my mother-in-law comes out, and I told her I really thought that July 28th was gonna be the day. And she's like, okay, well, just let me know. Like, if we have to go, we have to go. I was like, I'm just gonna go upstairs, and Jackson was in my bed, and I'm just gonna lay with Jackson, and I'm gonna try to like get some sleep. So I go upstairs and I moved Jackson over in my bed and I lay down and I go to bring my knees up to like spoon up behind my son, and I just feel a gush. And I was like, what the heck was that? Well, I sat up in bed and I felt another gush, and I was like, oh my gosh, is that my water? My water just broke. So I'm like, Brandy! My mother-in-law comes running upstairs and I was like, either I just peed myself and lost all control of my bladder or my water just broke. And she was like, okay, well, let's go to the bathroom. Let's go check. And so I put a pad in. Before I could even pull my pants up, I felt a gush. And I was like, there was another gush. And she's like, check. So I check, and it was definitely my water. And I was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And she's like, don't panic, call your husband and we're gonna go. And I'm like, okay. So we end up driving to my husband. I get in his truck and we fly to the hospital. Y'all, we were in Houston and we had to drive all the way down to Galveston, which is like an hour-and-a-half drive for us. And I was panicking because my water broke. My contractions were 5 minutes apart when I got to my husband, and I was in a dead panic. We end up getting to the hospital. I fill out all my paperwork and they put me in a room. UTMB Galveston, for anybody who doesn't know, is a learning hospital. So I had a lot of people in my room. I said it was okay for them to be in there. It's not mandatory, but I mean, they have to learn somehow and they have to learn on someone. And when you're pregnant and when you're about to push out a baby, there's no shame there. So if y'all want to come take a look, I mean, it's here. You're not even going to remember what it looks like by the end of the day. They gave me the epidural because I was super exhausted from all of those weeks of laboring. The epidural only numbed one half of my body at a time. First it numbed the left, and I was like, I can totally feel everything on the right. They made me lay on my right. Everything kind of ran down, and now my left was unnumb. So I had to keep flip-flopping back and forth. And when it came time to push, I felt all of the pain on one side of my body. Here's a fun fact. Jackson was actually in my delivery room and he got to see his sister be born. When I found out I didn't have to have a C-section anymore, when we got to the hospital, I asked them, I said, is he allowed to stay in here? And she said, this is a family hospital. As long as he is accompanied by an adult, then he can stay in the room. And I looked at my mother-in-law and she said, as long as you're okay with it. I wanted us to all become a family the very second she came out. Because when I found out that Mckenzie was a girl, I decided to sign tubal papers so I can get a tubal ligation. I knew after that pregnancy that mentally and emotionally and physically, I could not handle another one if it came around. We got our pair. We got a boy and we got a girl, and I was done. All became a family the second Mckenzie took her first breath. The second she came out and they held her up, Jackson screamed, "That's my baby sister!" And I lost it. I was crying my eyes out because it was just the happiest moment of my life. And everything that I felt the entire pregnancy, the depression, the anger, the sadness, all of that was just gone, like in an instant. It was so crazy how it just disappeared. She comes out and she's screaming this beautiful scream, and they take her over and they're cleaning her up and everything, and Daddy's taking pictures and I'm hugging my Jackson, and it was just absolutely beautiful. Mckenzie ended up becoming jaundice and she had to stay in the Billy Lights. So we had to wait for her to be cleared, and then we got to go home. And going home was the best feeling in the world after being in the hospital for 5 days. That is my absolute crazy pregnancy story with Mckenzie. Mckenzie being born in Galveston, Texas during hurricane season, and then having that kind of pregnancy is the very reason that we call her Hurricane Mckenzie. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. If you guys are new here, welcome. And we hope to see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to hit the bell next to the subscribe button so you guys get notifications for my upcoming content. Bye guys, I'll see you next time.